So just to recap, after my 8-year military career, my divorce signified for me, never really considered that I would have to figure this out and figure out how to stabilize a family by myself. I really want you to understand that I have been there. I've done that. Fundamentally, as I stand here holding this award that I got from my job back in 2010, I want you to realize that even the accolades that you get from your job doesn't transfer. And you will think subconsciously that you just got to work harder and that it's going to come out. And really, none of that can be further from the truth, which is why I really want you to stick with me through today's training so you can learn a little bit more about my story and hopefully see yourself in that story. And it doesn't end there. We must continue on to the journey. So let's see what we have in store for you today. I walked out onto the patio, and I don't remember deciding to do so, but I do know I needed air. I needed to get out, and I had questions roaming through my head. How did I get here? What did I miss, and where did I go wrong? And there on the porch was a praying mantis dying, and I'd seen 3 in my lifetime, and this was the first one that I'd seen dying. And something in me knew it meant something. And I always believed those creatures showed up at the edges of things and endings. And I looked it up, and everything I found pointed to the same idea, the end of a spiritual journey. And I sat with that a long time, and I started thinking about the decisions way back that had put me on this 20-year road in the first place. In 2006, a course called The 21 Days to Real Estate Riches, $2,000 I didn't have to spare, paid to a man I understood only years later, was selling that same course at 20 of us 40 times a year, making $40,000 a month. All for people like me chasing a dream with no real map. But here's what I missed the whole time sitting on that porch. It wasn't the education that failed me. It was the one course that had quietly convinced me education itself couldn't be trusted. And I had 10 years of people around me. I had an MBA, I had a dual master's degree, and I had hard work had never been the missing piece. I had that the whole time, what I'd been avoiding since 2006 was the right teacher. That night on the porch, I didn't change what I understood, it changed what I did next. And I couldn't unsee it. That I'd spent 20 years running from one thing that could have shortened every dark chapter I just lived through, so I stopped running. And Entrepreneurship Head Start became directly out of that decision. Not as a pivot, not as a what else can I try, as a thing I actually been building toward the whole time without knowing it. Every failed cycle, every project, every dollar lost to bad teacher and good lesson learned the hard way, all of it became the material. If I couldn't get this 20 years back, I could make sure nobody else had to lose 20 years finding out what I'd finally found out on the porch. Going. As of today, it hasn't ended. The lien, the courts, all of it still are resolved. I used to think a story like this needed a clean ending before I was allowed to tell it. And I don't believe that anymore. Because here's what's changed. I'm not waiting for the litigation to end before I start living the next chapter. Entrepreneur Head Start exists not as a same-day plan, but as something real, growing, and built to accessible to anyone who wants to learn before they leap. Instead of waking up 20 years still asking the same question I asked at 5 a.m. that morning, I let my pain preach now, and that's the difference. For 20 years, I ran from the lesson, chasing the next project, the next cycle, the next version of work that I thought would finally be enough. And now I spend my efforts somewhere else entirely, not just teaching people how to grow a business, but teaching people how to avoid the 20 years I lost finding out the hard work was never the missing piece. I'm the one who finally stopped, looked at the mantis, and asked the right question instead of working harder at the wrong one.